1, live.
Hello everyone and welcome to this Rushmoor Labour Councillors surgery. My name's Ashley Holstead, I represent Cherrywood ward and I'll be hosting this morning. Wanted to be a game show host. So if I could get all the councillors to introduce themselves that we have present, could I have Aldershot Park ward?
Hello, I Park ward councillor.
Yeah, Councillor Mike Roberts from Aldershot Park.
Excellent. Could I have councillors from Northtown?
Councillor Keith Dibble from Northtown ward.
Thank you. Any councillors from Wellington?
Yeah, Alex Crawford.
Nadia Martin, councillor for Wellington ward.
And finally, Cherrywood ward.
Good morning, I'm Councillor Guinness from Cherrywood ward.
And morning, I'm Clive Grattan from Cherrywood ward.
And myself, Ashley Holstead from Cherrywood ward as well. So we're going to start off with a bit about the town centre and how they're operating. Nadia, how is the town centre in Aldershot?
It's working well as far as I'm aware. I've not been in this week. And I know that the town centre ambassadors have their last day tomorrow because they're happy with the way things are running. The queuing system and everything seems to be working well, but they will be on standby if anything changes.
Okay, excellent. Has anyone want to comment on Farnborough town centre?
Well, in fact, I haven't been into Farnborough town centre this week at all, but last week it was working quite well and it was proceeding on a good growth. There's the spacing out and the separation was working very well, and apart from round by the bingo section, it was perfectly all right. It's just that there was a big group outside the bingo hall at that time, and everything else has been working perfectly by the looks of it. And just to mention that car boots will be starting shortly.
Yeah, I believe there's a limit on what they're doing with car boots, but I think it's mainly regular traders that are coming in, but they are opening up. It should be interesting to see how that works.
The car boot started last weekend, and all the feedback I got was that it was actually really well run.
If I may, about Aldershot Town Centre, what I've noticed it's still relatively empty, and it's a long way to go before it's back to even its normality. So I think people are still reluctant to travel into the town centre using public transport. There's a bit of nervousness about that. If I may say, the one thing that I'm a bit concerned about is what I've observed around playgrounds. They've been opened up, and there's clearly, it's impossible to, as far as I can see, to get these young children and their supervisors to maintain social distancing. They have had council staff go, but I don't think they can control anything. It's just too busy.
Did you have something to say on this?
Yeah, I'm just going to back up what Alex said. We had a few comments from the last surgery about people concerned about children's play areas opening up and how do you maintain that distance. There's all sorts of instructions for people to clean down equipment and stuff. Is that realistic? Is it going to be realistic that we're maintaining social distance, cleaning things? How is that going to work? Is that going to be assessed at any basis, sort of risk-wise?
I have to say, having taken, because obviously we've had our new park open in Moor Park, and I've been over a couple of times, and once took my daughter over twice in one day. Now we've taken wipes and hand sanitizer each time we've gone.
Brilliant.
It's not easy to wipe down the actual play equipment. The gym equipment's really easy, wipe it, get on it, wipe it when you get off. but that's not so easy with swings and slides, and there's no way someone my size is climbing down a slide to wipe it as I come down. But I did make sure that every sort of 2 minutes that she was putting hand sanitizer on, and I think really as a parent, all you can do is the best you can do. It is hard, and the little ones don't understand social distancing. My daughter, as I've said before, my daughter will get her toys out and she'll play with them, and she'll even put them and say, oh no, social distancing, you're not allowed to be near each other. But then in reality, when you take her out, if she sees someone she knows or she wants to play with someone, it goes out the window. They're too little to understand. And I think really it's just, do we long and not being able to have that social interaction that we know that they need. That while I was at the park with her, she saw someone that she'd normally be at school with and wanted to play with her. And I just sort of checked with the mum and said, have you been following the guidelines? And she said, yeah, and we have. So I did allow her to play with her. How long do you go on before you allow? It's a very hard situation. How long can you keep a child locked up for before it starts affecting their mental health?
Yeah. Okay. Can I have Keith, and then I'll move on to Clive and then Sophie.
Yeah, some wise words there from Christine. I think that there's been a clamour for parents for the play equipment to be open, and I think it's brilliant to go out and see children playing and using the equipment. But yeah, there is parental responsibility, and I think the council can't really do much more than now opening the facility. If you're taking, young children should be there with a parent or a guardian or a grandparent. And I think there is a responsibility there. We went yesterday to a family farm, or a farm for families, not a family farm, where there was loads of play equipment, and parents and grandparents were acting responsibly, but children want to play. And I think one of the saddest things for the last 12 weeks is that children haven't been able to play. But our granddaughter is obsessed with cleaning her hands. She won't do anything without hand gel, and it's part of the fun of playing. So I think if people take their children, certainly to the junior play equipment, there is a responsibility there from the parent or guardian. I think when you get to teenage equipment, that's a different matter, and one would hope that those that sort of teenagers have got more responsibility and do understand what social distancing is. But it is a difficult thing, and time will tell whether they were open too early or not. But I think anyone with very young children or young grandchildren, they just want to play, and their quality of life is enhanced by them playing.
Clive?
Oh yes, yes. Just carry on from what Keith said. Yeah, our gym equipment is a lot easier to sanitise and to use. When it comes to the play areas, Keith is quite right. We encourage our children to interact with each other and to play. In the last 12 weeks, we've been doing the opposite, which is very hard for them to understand. With our play area, it's a brand new play area. There's been huge enthusiasm to actually go down there. And I do give the parents a load of credit. They have been trying to work within the rules, and they were trying. And at one time, our park was so full that parents had to walk away because there was too many in there. But overall, it is very hard to keep children apart, and it's not feasible. As long as they keep sanitising and such like, and the parents actually take control, I think it's a very good thing. But they are trying.
We're also joined by another Aldershot Park councillor, Sophie. Did you want to make a comment?
Morning, Ashley. I don't know if anyone's seen, but on social media at the moment, there's been some parents that are looking to go and clean different parks in Aldershot, and there's a clean-up organised for Manor Park. Now, I got into contact with the council to look at cleaning rotas, or how often parks are cleaned. And you know, there's, from the response was there's so many parks around that the council hasn't got the resources to regularly go around and clean parks. So they did say they welcome people to go and clean the park themselves. But obviously then it raises the issue of what people are then cleaning the parks with. If you're going to be cleaning equipment with bleach, you've then got little hands touching the equipment, and then obviously touching their face and inhaling it. So I think it's really great, and I admire the community spirit of the parents who are going out. I think they're out in Manor Park this weekend cleaning equipment, and I've offered to set one up for them in Aldershot Park if they feel that it's beneficial to them. But I agree. I've just echo what everyone else says. It must be incredibly difficult to keep your children away and know what, once somebody's touched something, how often do you get someone to clean their hands? So yeah, really tough.
Alex, did you have something?
Yeah, sure. I'm very alarmed to hear the response from the council that they haven't got the resources to keep the play equipment clean. It's part of the government guidelines, which I read, about authorities' responsibilities in opening up play areas, is that they must arrange for them to be cleaned. So, I think this is something I'll have to take up with the council on Monday. They must, if they're going to have the play areas open, they must follow the guidelines.
Alex, I'll forward you the email trail.
Excellent. Right, so I think we'll move on to our ward updates. Could I get Aldershot Park first, please?
Sorry, I was being efficient and sending an email to Alex.
Very well done.
Well, there's a few things. One of the main things is the response to the Lido opening. Now, we've had some residents who have raised concerns about the Lido not opening. One resident claimed that it wasn't opening just due to the fact that it wouldn't be able to turn a profit. And that's not really the case. And I think what's really important is the Labour group will work very closely with Friends of the Lido to ensure that the Lido is reopened next year. It will come back even better. And there are plans to refurb the Lido, and we'll be working very, very closely with council to ensure that they meet the requirements of the residents. We've just got to remember the Lido isn't just a business, it's a local institution, and we have to do all we can to preserve it.
Absolutely.
I don't know if anyone wanted to talk about that before I move on.
No, can I just come in on that point? The Lido has been there ever since I was living just around the corner in Guildford Road and Place Court, as it was in the old days. It cannot be helped that it is not opening this year. There are many features similar around the country which are not opening because of the virus. It takes about 6 weeks plus to actually bring the Lido on stream. That includes replacement of fixtures, fittings, and various other bits in the Lido itself. So there was no surprise that it wasn't going to open this year. And if you look around the borough, there are lots of other things which are not happening this year. Like most people would be aware that there are no flowers this year after the spring flush, as it were. There is no flowers, and that's another consequence of COVID-19. We just hope that what we do this year and how we respond to it with regard to the virus doesn't have a legacy of rolling over and to the next year. The difficulty is we've got no idea because of the nature of the virus. So, it's not something that anybody wanted to occur, but it it is the situation which has to happen.
Excellent. So there's a comment from Jason on the chat. Is this a way forward to increase attendance for meetings? Certainly from our perspective, we've been using online meetings a lot more. Council are using all online meetings now. And the leader did say that he wants to try and take something similar forward into future meetings to really engage with the public. So I think this probably could be the future or something similar. Could I have a ward update from Northtown, please?
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Ashley. A few issues. We've had a number of complaints from those in Greenway, living on the farm estate, about an odour coming from the industrial units there. This has been an ongoing problem for a number of years. A couple of years ago, one of the companies invested quite heavily in new filters, which seemed to improve matters, but it certainly got worse over the last 2 or 3 or a few weeks. And we are working as residents with environmental health to take the appropriate action. And I'm sure the next thing will be a theme probably from all members, but the vivid repairs system and them not meeting dates when they've given dates to tenants and residents is continuing, and a major problem. Yesterday, when they were due to come and mark out some parking bays, that's been a topical issue in part of Northtown for a couple of years, really. And July the 10th was the day they were going to come and mark the bays, and today would be the introduction of the parking scheme. And lo and behold, the team never turned up to mark the bays. We had a meeting with KFC, McDonald's, and County Council on Monday, and the county are going ahead now with a mini roundabout at that junction. Lots of people think the mini roundabout isn't the right solution. I think at this stage we have a way forward, and I think it's to take a view after that's been implemented, and that will be done, we are told, this year. Now, do county mean the calendar year, or do they mean the financial year? I think it's the latter, but they spoke as if it was going to be the calendar year. We've advertised on social media. We will put into our newsletter requesting ideas for. We're happy from our ward grant to buy 2 or 3 benches, and we've got some good feedback there. Ivy Fields, we understand there's still ongoing discussions between a sporting club from outside of Rushmoor that want to relocate to Ivy Fields, which on one hand is good news. On the other is that what we don't want to have is 100% usage given to a particular club, that they're keen to have a clubhouse there. But I think that's still got a long way to go. And we're working with the local traders in North Lane and the local beat team, because there has been an increase in shoplifting over the past few weeks. Now, is that because people are sadly coming out from the town centre and using their local shops more? I don't know, but certainly One Stop has seen quite an increase in shoplifting. And I think, as we mentioned before, and if you've just got 2 female members of staff on the work rota, it's not for them to challenge or to chase after the would-be or alleged thieves. And we just need to get. And I think they're slightly disappointed with the police response for shoplifting calls. So that's a mixed bag of issues. But take any questions on that if necessary.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, Keith mentioned the very sore subject of the performance of Vivid. The performance of Vivid hasn't got any better in recent years. And in fact, as he has outlined, that your chances of getting anything sorted by Vivid seem to be getting remoter and remoter, regardless of whatever it is. And there is a continuing problem of lack of response at the moment from area managers. Have they been furloughed? I've no idea, but you can't get any response from them. And on the ground, it's becoming a real nightmare of seeking a way forward in some very difficult cases. I think members of the group will be aware that I submitted in around about August the other year, nearly just under 5,000 word cases specific, without actually naming people, because you're not allowed to do that, to the regulator. And I've just resubmitted it because there were indications that from a discussion I was involved with the regulator, that she was going to take a lot tougher view in her role against housing associations. And I've resubmitted the report simply because, on the basis my covering note suggests, nothing has changed. And if you want me to add, even on some of the cases which are not named but by area, there I'll be very happy to do so. Not happy for the people, but happy to do so. You know, they are pretty lamentable.
I'll pass that on, Mike. Yeah, some numbers to you.
Yeah. So there's been a comment about someone who's currently viewing that it has a hearing impairment. Can we all make sure that our lips are quite clearly in the camera when we're speaking, so that they are able to understand? I've got a hearing impairment myself, so I completely understand.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Are there any other comments for Keith in Northtown? No, so I'll move on to Wellington Ward, if I could.
Sorry.
Yeah, so if Nadia's got something, perhaps she could indicate. I can't see her face, so I don't know if she's indicating or not. One of the things is the announcement this week that Boots is going to cut 4,000 jobs nationally. So we're waiting to hear whether that will have any impact in the Boots in the Wellington Centre in Aldershot. And of course, the news about the dire position of shopping malls around the country. Again, we're waiting to hear if there's any sort of impact on the Wellington Centre in Aldershot. So the not so good news, I guess, is about the Princess Hall, where there's still no indication as to when that would be able to open. And at the current time, it's unfortunately, it's needing to be supported massively by Rushmoor Borough Council financially while it's closed, and that's a great shame. But until the government announces what its plans are for such venues, we'll just have to wait and see. We've had a few difficulties with litter and so on in playing fields in Wellington Ward, and also graffiti, which we've taken up, but these are just ongoing issues. A bit of good news for those people who buy their scratch cards at Tesco. There was a person who bought their scratch card there this week and won £1 million, so it is possible. I never do it myself, but if you're Tesco, Aldershot seems to be a good place to buy them.
Nadia, did you have an update?
No, not really. I mean, the only update I had was on the play parks. The military play parks opened yesterday. Officially opened yesterday, but I mean, there was children in there before yesterday. I think everyone thought that they were opening the same time as all the other parks, and it was only announced a few days ago that they were opening on Friday the 10th, so it was a bit late. Yeah, but no real updates. Alex mentioned the litter, and yeah, I've nothing.
Excellent. I've put a summary of that in the chat, just so if anyone that's hard of hearing that couldn't lip read that. Hash, did you have a comment?
Very quickly, Alex mentioned that the Princess Hall is having...
Sorry.
Oh, you're on mute, Hash.
Oh, sorry, that's unusual for me. Very quickly, Alex mentioned the Princess Hall. That's unfortunate. The West End Centre, however, is another great source of culture in Aldershot. It has been doing a lot of online classes, which I know that the Princess Hall have been as well. But I'm also been informed that they are reopening from Monday 27th of July for pre-booked summer classes. So if you're a regular at the West End Centre, you should have got some emails about some of the classes that are opening up, including drama and some of the, I think, ukulele class and choir have been going online. But I think there are a number of other workshops that are opening up, including origami and some other things. So stay tuned for your emails and the West End Centre website, because I know they're doing a lot of stuff to make sure people are as safe as possible trying to bring people back.
Excellent. Keith?
Thank you, Ashley. I think one of the problems with the Princess Hall, of course, is that the majority of their events are national tours managed by agents and entertainment groups, so many of that and those tours are tended to be cancelled. So, for example, if I don't know, there was a Motown night due for the end of July, and they could now open the Princess Hall. If the Motown night was part of a national tour and the tour's cancelled, it's not going to be just arranged for one particular venue. So well, I'm sure that the Princess Hall management are working with those agents and entertainment groups, but many, I think, the majority of national, well, probably all of them, national tours have been cancelled. Whereas the West End Centre have ownership of those workshops, so it's much easier for that type of venue to come back into action quicker. But sooner the better, really.
Yeah, excellent. Can I have an update from Cherrywood, please? Did you put one?
It's the update from Cherrywood is that we're still having a few litter problems around there, and a high amount of flighting at this moment in time. We are keeping on top of that as much as possible, but it's a big problem in our particular area around the casual close sections and such like. It seems to be growing. I think we're importing stuff at this moment in time, so it's a great problem. On the good news is that the play park is actually going great guns. It's being used every day. I know it's new, but everyone is using it and trying to social distance as much as possible, and the actual Moor Road playing field's going on. And they are looking at starting the Mugger, which is a multi-gym outside system where you can play basketball and football and such inside, and the BMX track looks like it's going to start by the end of August to the early September time. So hopefully that will be all done before the main part of the winter festival. And that's all I got for the moment, unless Christine's got something else.
Yeah, the only thing, the park has been absolutely fantastic. The only thing is there has been a few complaints from residents about older teenagers and their bad language and some of the ways they're behaving. The police have said to let all the residents know that they must phone 101 while they're there and while it's happening. And if they've got a car about locally, they'll send them straight there.
So, yeah, obviously, as you say, Moor Road Park has had a lot of praise and a lot of criticism from residents where some people have been maybe misusing it or displaying antisocial behaviour while around the area, especially in the evenings. I've had a fitness and health instructor go around the gym bits of the Moor Road Park, and she says that the gym equipment is actually very good quality, good standard, great for a workout. Are there any questions for anyone on any of the ward updates?
Yeah, just to mention that not all the play equipment, as Nadia mentioned about the military play equipment, not all of the play equipment on our estates and developments is owned by Rushmoor. And certainly on some of the newer estates and newer developments in the last 10, 15 years, where the equipment is actually owned by the developer. For example, on the Woodland Walk, Chestnut Grove estate in Northtown, the ball court and the junior play equipment is owned by the residents on the estate through the directors that they elect of the management company. And they have taken the decision just to open the play equipment and taking it down to parental responsibility to do the cleaning we spoke of earlier. So there is an assumption that all the play equipment in Aldershot and Farnborough is council owned, and in fact it isn't. And I think Vivid probably still own one or two odd pieces of play equipment, as would I think certainly Manor Park, some of the recent developments that there, the play equipment is not owned by the council. So it's just something for residents to be aware of, that it isn't necessarily managed or maintained by Rushmoor.
Excellent. So moving on, I've got a segment from Halleh about local shop opening. Could you tell us about that, Halleh?
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning. And I've got this morning with me, I've got Mr. Muhammad Najrabi. He is the owner of the Frankie's Cafe in the High Street. Good morning, Mr. Najrabi. Thank you very much
Good
for
morning.
taking the time.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, Mr. Najrabi, can you tell us how long you've been in the Aldershot?
I've been since April 2017 here. Now, firstly, good morning to everyone who's hearing me, because I tried to join earlier, but it was difficult. I don't know, some problem with the voice. But I still wish you all the best and good Saturday. I'm here since April 2017. Okay. And this coffee in this business, it was up and down, all those things, but lockdown put us down and down and down.
Okay, so Mr. Najrabi, you reopened your shop last Saturday. Can you tell us a little bit about how it's been this week?
The thing is, before we opened, unlucky, so I tried 3 days, 4 days before, everything was working properly. I don't know how I came Friday evening to double check everything is perfect, and then my coffee machine gone.
Okay.
And then I have to, weekend is difficult to repair, find the PayPal or all those things. I find out everything on Monday, fix it, and my till machine, cash register machine gone as well, because it was so long time, it was off, and it was difficult. But still, we done it, and we opened only Tuesday.
Tuesday, oh.
Yeah, like 3 days later.
Okay. And how's business then?
It's okay, but some people still slowly coming back, but very slow. But most of the people, they calling you are open or not, and we saying yes, we are open. They are glad to come and see each other, because this place is mostly like for sociable people. The social life is there. People come and see each other, talking to each other, and my place is quite enough space for everyone, And especially elderly people, they come in, they chat each other, they know each other for ages. Sometimes they come in, they're sitting, but only is they're not comfortable because they have to sit each other away from each other, because of the distance. Okay. But still, some people come in, but very slow. Is really, really difficult.
Is there anything that you think you can get help, or you've got the local councillor here with you?
Yeah, so thank you.
You think you can?
The thing is, at the moment, I don't know really what to do. But we try to bring more people in, to encourage people come in. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, usually we had in front of our coffee shop, there was Sunday market, car sale. And they changed it to Saturday. Since they changed it to Saturday, we lost 80% of customers. on Sunday.
I think Alex wants to say something. Alex, what would you like to say to Mr. Nadrabi?
Sorry?
I wanted to ask Mr. Nadrabi about the whether the government's meal deal, where you get a £10 up to £10 off if you eat between Monday and Wednesday, whether he would be interested in that.
Yeah, of course I will be interested, but if the people come in, you know, depends if the people come in, and it is, of course, is helpful for everyone, not just for businesses. It's helpful for the people who's coming in, you know, because most of people I see they come in after the lockdown, they coming out and they are really little bit short of money. I'll say like that, you know, they feeling. I see that one. I'm trying to most of time to give away like something extra for them. Don't charge them to just to keep them happy. You know, customers, they always, you know, I like these people. I've been with them like working, and they like us. We like them, and they come in they smile when I see in the faces. Really, I'm glad to see them. Everyone,
Yeah,
this is very good to see.
Yeah, good. Do you have details of the this meal deal?
Not yet.
That you know
yet.
how to.
I heard just in the news. I didn't have any information about that. How to register, how to take it, how to work it out. I have no idea about it. Just I hear in the news when the government announced. That's it.
Okay. Well, we'll try and find out how it works and let you know.
Yeah, please. Thank you so much, really, for your help. I'm really. The only thing is, if today when I show you there is car food sale and Sunday and Saturday, is no course at all there. You know, one car was there, and the people who's working, they just shuttered the car. We said, I'm one person, nobody's coming, I'm going. They closed the Saturday car food sale market. If it's possible to bring it to Sunday, will be more people is well coming, because Saturday is shopping day and people are going to shopping, not for that one. And Sunday, a lot of people, they like to come. Most of the time they asking why they shut this Sunday car food sale here in the Aldershot. I'm saying it's not my job, it's council job. I have no idea.
Yeah, okay. I'll take that up with the council for you. Thank you very
please.
much. Yeah.
And one thing else, I want to say something about the car park, please. If you can take the action about the car park charge, is every day from Monday to Sunday, every day's charge. There is like in this high street, especially if you go like to London, to even to Westminster, Friday 6:30 to 7:30 Monday morning, you are free. You park in single yellow line, double yellow line is free. But here every day, I don't know, there is no busy town, but still the restriction is too hard. Most people, they complaining, customers, they said, I come in for a cup of tea, I have to pay like 80p for the extra for car park, because there is not, it's like to pay for 10 minutes or 5 minutes. You have to pay for an hour charge. They said it's costly.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Nadrabi.
You're welcome.
Any other question for Mr. Nadrabi? No? Thank you very much for taking the time. And
you're welcome. Thank you so much. Thanks for your.
I know, and good luck.
Let me know. To speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Over to you, Ashley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nadrabi, and for Halleh for organising that. That was brilliant. So moving on, I'm going to go to Christine about a quick update on a Vivid pilot. Can you tell us about that, Christine?
Yeah, so as part of our roles on council, we have a committee called Overview and Scrutiny, where we call certain groups in. One of them has been housing associations. So obviously Vivid is one of our major housing associations, and we've been talking to them obviously about a lot of complaints and things. And one of them was actually that it's just as hard for us as councillors to get hold of them as it is residents. Now, when we're going in to see residents and they're saying to us, you know, we've been complaining for a year, 3 years, you know, about this. And, you know, so we say, right, well, we'll try and help you. And then it's actually just as hard for us to get hold of them. You know, we have the same telephone numbers and that, and we're put in the same queues. and it's got ridiculous. So actually Vivid have stepped up, and starting Monday the 20th, we will have our own email address for Vivid that we can email them on with our complaints and queries. Now, that's really good. It starts Monday the 20th, and they're going to trial it for 3 months and then come back to us with a survey of how we think it's worked. They've promised that any emails we send off to them will be prioritised, and if received by 4 p.m. that day, they'll be handled that day by a specialist team. And it's a really simple form that they've sent us with our details, the residents' details. Obviously, we need to make sure and put on there whether we've got the residents' permission to share the information with us. But yeah, hopefully it will make our jobs as councillors a lot easier in trying to get hold of Vivid, to try and get our residents help.
And that is going to be very helpful for us. Obviously, we struggle to get hold of Vivid a lot. And I actually said in full council, I've got a hearing impairment, I can't call them and they won't respond to my emails. So it made it very difficult for me to do my job as a councillor. And so I'm very glad that people like Christine and Terry that were on overdue scrutiny have really pushed for Vivid to be more accountable. Keith, did you have something?
Yeah, I mean, it's good what Christine has introduced and explained. And yeah, it's good that we've got a route now to escalate. But the fact is, if they delivered a service to their tenants and leaseholders, we wouldn't be having to be used as the backstop all the time. So, and really, tenants should be getting that fast track of response, whether it be with neighbourhood dispute or with repairs. So yes, it's good that there is a fast track for councillors, but actually the tenants and leaseholders should be number one priority in Vivid's thinking, because in fact we shouldn't be having to be used as that point of escalation, because they should be delivering the service that their residents and leaseholders pay, you know, high rents and service charges for. So I think that's the message to Vivid from me.
Excellent. Mike?
Yes, can I endorse that? You know, I'm fed up to the back teeth of dealing with Vivid, and in relationship to the continuing problems that tenants, leaseholders, and others have. Sometimes it's not even directly they who are complaining, i.e., their tenants. It's the next door neighbours who are complaining about the failures for dealing with a particular problem, which I've been reminded of graphic photographs literally in the last couple of days from a next door neighbour who's an owner-occupier, and he has my sympathy, quite bluntly. They just do not seem to be able to get hold of their ultimate end management commitment. I wish they could, but unfortunately, whether you deal with them anywhere in Hampshire, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same that comes up. It's poor leadership at the centre and poor management all the way down, and it's no wonder, you know, we have to end up as councillors, and we shouldn't be doing as much as we do, but having to broach outputs and outcomes from Vivid. I just despair on occasions, because you know what you're going to get whenever you go walkabout in your particular area or elsewhere.
Excellent. Alex, did you have something?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's only limited Vivid property in Wellington ward, but I would say that similar problems are happening with other housing associations.
Yeah.
And it does point to me to the total weakness and unsatisfactory state of the council's registered provider review panel, because they just simply are failing to call these housing associations to account and get them to change. It's all very well having cosy meetings every other month, but if nothing changes, the system's not working.
I would agree with that.
I've had a comment from Nadia about using councillors as a last resort for housing association complaints. So I believe the process is that you should complain to the housing association and go through their complaints procedure. Obviously, we've learned that they're not always the most forthcoming. You can obviously come to us if you need any further assistance. The last resort is very key for housing ombudsman complaints. In order to go to them, you do have to have some sort of input from us. They usually won't accept a claim without you having to go through your councillor or a representative. So moving on, could I have a COVID update from Alex, please?
Yeah, okay, thanks, Ashley. I think the good news in terms of COVID infections for Rushmoor is that there have only been 7 cases in the whole of Rushmoor in the past month, and none for the past fortnight recorded by any of the testing schemes that are in operation, whether it's in hospitals, care homes, or in the community. So that's really good news. And it does seem that in Rushmoor, we're well past the peak. So, for example, there were 52 deaths of Rushmoor residents in April, but in June, there were only 4. And in July so far, there have been only 1. So all this points to the fact that, it may be tempting for people to ask the question, can life return to normal now? Because we have got such low levels of infection and the deaths are no longer apparent and impacting on people in the local community. So the caution I have, and perhaps it's to do with the way that I feel I'm still vulnerable at my age and so on, is that it's too early to be relaxing, and that we definitely need to be much more cautious in terms of wearing face masks and on public transport, and certainly going into shops. I mean, I'm quite astonished that, you might say you go into Boots and you wearing a face mask for your protection and for the protection of the staff, but none of the staff are wearing face masks. And this seems to me highly questionable, that we must have the same rules applying for everyone in order for everyone to stay safe. But perhaps I'm being too cautious. I wonder what other people think.
Jason?
Oh. Hello there, Brian. Hi everyone. I'm pretty new to Labour. Before the lockdown, I signed up and joined in. I know Alex and I know Nadia. I'm looking forward to meeting everybody else and getting to know you. Hello. I am hard of hearing. Complete deafness here. I've got a little bit of hearing in this ear, as you can tell. Now, if you wouldn't mind, what I would like to do, particularly with disability labour, I believe that's what they're called, is encourage more people with disabilities to join Labour. Also, in the neighbourhood, in the flats I live in, and that kind of thing. However, what I'd like to do is point out to the individuals that also may be hard of hearing or even deaf, is the importance of the frame in which you sit in right now. The head needs to be focused, so the chin needs to be up here a bit. Basically, I think Ashley, if you look at where Ashley is at, you've got the exact where there's no distraction in the background, very little. and Ashley's positioned just right for me to be able to lip read him. Now, unfortunately, funnily enough, I've just completed my sign language BSL 1, and doing that, I had to rearrange my room and lose the hassle so I could just have a plain background. And then I thought, oh hell, why don't I just bring the computer over to my settee and look like this? It's brilliant that people can do this kind of thing, because it makes clarity so much better, particularly for people like myself that lip read. Also, I like to offer my services to everyone. If you know anyone that is deaf or that uses sign language, then drag me in and I'll be more than happy to help out. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Jason. Are there any questions or comments on the COVID update from Alex?
Well, only the excellent point that Alex makes really highlights the complete lack of management of the crisis from the government. I mean, it's misleading signs, isn't it? I mean, you had Johnson yesterday in a shop wearing a face mask and says we're thinking about making it compulsory. Well, it either is a need to do it or there isn't a need to do it. Yeah, you know, I mean, it's Paul. If that was a salesman, it would be sacked, wouldn't he? For goodness' sake. It just seems to be the spur of the moment. You know, what's flavour of the day today? You know, testing now, testing good, testing bad. Isle of Wight, this is the solution, and then forget about it and rewrite history. It's just crazy. You know, don't go to work. Only work at home when you can. Only go to work if you can't work from home. And now everyone's told to go back to work. So it's misleading signs, and you know, it's not strong government. It's weak and pathetic government, and therefore, Alec, until you know these things are mandatory, people will believe that, understandably, that the risk is reduced dramatically. That's my view, anyway. And I'm someone who's working with multiple countries in a professional basis, and I would say the UK is the most incompetent government in dealing with, apart from America, which I don't deal with. It appears to be the most incompetent government in Europe in dealing with the problem.
Just mention, follow on the COVID-19 update with the continuing work that the Vine Centre is doing. They're now not only are they carrying on with their current delivering care packages and meals and that kind of thing, but they're preparing a new project to go forward to deal with the much anticipated rise in unemployment as people come off furlough and the country goes into some kind of recession. Despite what the government's saying about all the support they're giving, all the indicators are that the situation is going to worsen economically. And so the Vine Centre is preparing a new project to do what they can to assist people who are vulnerable and isolated to acquire new skills to get them back into work. So that's something to watch in the next few months.
So I believe in Cherrywood, there's also a programme run by the Vine through Pebble, Skills Cafe and Money Advice. Clive, how would someone who wants to use that get in touch and use that one?
Yes, on the front door of the Prospect Centre, there's contact details of how you contact Money Advice and the Vine for the Skills Project. They have an email address and a phone number, and they can contact them direct and get any assistance they want. And at this moment in time, it's essentially the Vine part of the Skills Cafe. They are phoning round on a regular basis to all their clients they had previously, and any new ones come up to see how they can assist them. Last week, they made over 300 calls to people that they've dealt with in the past on jobs in actually any computer and CV device. So they are doing a great job at this moment in time. Not like the same as a one-to-one system, but overall they're doing great, and the contact details are there for everyone to see.
Excellent. So the only other thing I have on the agenda, apart from any other business, is that the Civic Quarter in Farnborough has been in the newspapers. There isn't so much of an update since sort of what we last gave, but what I think is important is if you have any views on it, please do get in touch with one of us and we'll quite happily pass that along and feed it back into the consultation. But has anyone got any comments on that at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, just to really say, you know, it's just the offices itself, you know, they're looking to sell off as part of the development. You know, the council offices aren't disappearing. They'll be moving into the civic hub, as we talked about last week, with the library and, you know, hopefully some community buildings. You know, so the council offices will still be there. You will still be able to walk in and speak to somebody. Obviously, you know, with the digital world we're in today, they are looking at, you know, how many they can have actually do their jobs from home. And of course, they've been monitoring that a lot lately because they've had to with the COVID-19. But the offices will still be there. There will still be a desk that you can go up to, you know, and have an inquiry. And hopefully along with that, we're actually shrinking the size of our offices. We'll be able to hopefully have somewhere in Aldershot as well, which is what we actually want, because obviously it's been a long time now that there hasn't been a service desk in Aldershot for the council, and that's what we really want to push for as well.
Excellent. So yeah, are there any points of any other business coming in?
No, I'm disappearing now, so
okay. So I've got Chris, and I had Roz that raised her hand as well. Can I have Chris first, please?
Hi, Ashley. Hi, everyone. I think I probably know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyway. There was a thing in the paper a couple of weeks ago about how the government grants to sort out tall buildings with Grenfell-type cladding on. Those grants, they've been a very poor take-up. And I wrote to Building Control at Rushmoor just to say, you know, I've seen this in the papers. Are you happy that there are no buildings in this category in the borough? And they said, yes, it's all fine. So I just thought I'd ask the question of councillors. Are you guys all happy that that is true?
I can answer that with respect to Wellington Ward. There are 2 tower blocks in Wellington Ward in Station Road, both of which have cladding which needs to be removed and refurbished. Unfortunately, the owner of the building, Accent Housing, they haven't yet produced the plans for doing this, and that's what would be required in order for them to make the application to the government for the grant. They've told the residents that that's the situation, which means that these residents, as I understand it, find it impossible to sell their flats, which they have on either shared ownership or totally owned, because all the time that they're in this position, their flats have zero value. And no mortgage company will either give them a mortgage on a new property should they wish to move out, or give any incoming buyer a mortgage to buy a flat there, because that's the situation. And it's an absolute disgrace that there's all this bureaucracy around these things, but it's the effects on the lives of real people. And there are probably about in these 2 tower blocks in Station Road, there's probably about 80 households affected in that kind of way. So thanks very much for raising that, Chris. It's a very, very important point.
Yeah, but supplementary, if I may, I think I've been in both those buildings canvassing. but I can't remember what the safety precautions are like. Of course, the problem with Grenfell was one staircase, no sprinklers.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the safety precautions, both of them have either two staircases, either one internal, one external, or two internal. So in that case, that it's not quite as I understood it at Grenfell Tower. There was only one staircase, but that's by the by. They're still expected to operate the policy, which is stay put. But it's totally, that to me, that would be totally unacceptable if and the other difficulty with stay put is that you have to have heard the fire alarm, and one of the difficulties in these buildings is the when you're in your flat, it's very difficult to hear any fire alarm anyway, and so the whole situation is unsatisfactory and it needs to be sorted out. But there's so far there's been no will to do so.
Thank you, Alex.
Ros, I know you were to come in.
That's okay. It's all. This has been dealt with.
All been dealt with. Clive, you were waving.
Take on one point in what we've been talking about previously. It's very well having fire alarms in there with sound, but as pointed out by Jason, if you're hard of hearing, have they got any other type of alarm that they can put in there that states for sight and flashing lights and such like?
I'm judging by Alex's shaking that.
No, I mean the failure to attend to these things, I think, is lacking. And we did have a report from shortly after Grenfell. We had the fire authority come along to the council and do a presentation about it, and they said that the Accent Housing had done what was necessary to bring the building up to the current standards at that time. Unfortunately, the standards have now moved on, and it means that there's even more work required. But that the question of that is who's going to bear the cost of that work, and this is a big issue as well. It just seems to me that what's needed is, as you've just pointed out, Clive, is that it needs to be looked at from the point of view of the people living there, not from the point of view what's the minimum we can do to meet the current regulations.
Yes, and to take it one step further, I recall some time back in our Cherrywood board that we had a resident who had an actual fire, a small fire, and hopefully it was at that time purely mostly smoke that came out, but he was deaf as well. And of course the fire alarm was going off and he couldn't hear it. So I think not just out on the main corridors and other areas, we need to take into account that residents within their homes need that protection as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason.
Can I say that? I was in, where was I? I was in Morrison's quite a few months back. Fire alarm went off. Fortunately, a friend of mine was with me and I couldn't hear the fire alarm. You see, because when you're looking at the hearing aid, it's an electrical device. And so when a high-pitched noise like fire alarm goes off, doesn't get registered sometimes within the hearing aids, you just completely miss it. You know? While we're on about the communication thing, there's a lot of people wearing these face masks. Now, if you imagine me trying to lip read with a face mask on, it's absolutely hilarious. However, with this kind of thing, it works a treat. It's also very unoffensive. It's very personal. Rather than speak to someone about Labour or whatever with a face mask, you can be more friendly with this. You're more open, you're more easy. And it's actually been proven that this kind of thing, for us, not for the people that are in the hospitals, but for us, this is more than sufficient. The virus is airborne, but it'll hit this mask, if it hits this mask at a 2 meter distance, and it won't touch the face. It also, and I'm a stickler for this, biting my nails. All right, I've quit smoking, and I want to bite my nails all the time, but I can't do it now. So that's great. So, and also the touching of your face. Everyone's like really worried about touching their face after they've been touching various things. This thing reminds you don't want to be touching your face. So basically, it's an all-round winner. Get them on eBay, it's cheap as chips, a lot more cheaper than face mask by now. Thank you.
Excellent. And Keith.
Thank you, Ashley. Picking up the point on the cladding and actually fire alarms and evacuations. I mean, any of us that work in an office or a factory or and I guess a hospital, Sophie's knowledge will be much greater than mine on this, but you know, we by law have to have weekly fire tests. You know, everyone understands that. And if the alarm goes at any other time, out the building you go. There's not this assumption, it's a false alarm. But in those tower blocks, I mean, do the landlord, do they have annual, monthly, quarterly fire evacuation tests? Where do people go when there isn't an alarm? Is there a muster point? Is there any sort of checks? Because the rules and regulations for well-being for an office or a factory are huge and very sensible. But in something like Alexandra House or Stratford House, where there are people of all ages, children to, I guess, those with disabilities and retirement age and above, do they ever have tests, Alec and Nadia?
Yeah, sure. Unfortunately, I think there was some, how shall I put it, so many false setting off of the fire alarms that at one stage the fire brigade were refusing to respond because they naturally assumed that they were being set off falsely. So, they have said that they do test the fire alarms, but it's not in the sense of encouraging all the residents to, file out and assemble in the car park. I think it's just a test that, if they press the button, the alarm sounds. But
if you're in third floor, flat 6, do you, how does the landlord know that the alarms can be heard and all of that? I mean,
yeah, sure.
I don't think you should know the answers.
No, that's right. They depend on the residents letting them know that they can't hear. But when the residents have said that, the system hasn't changed. Unfortunately, I think it's a good question to be raising with our so-called register provider review panel, is to get them to ask.
Can I just come in here, because as far as I can understand, certainly from when I used to do this at work, is that everywhere buildings of multiple occupations should have a fire alarm test once a week, and a fire evacuation test once a year.
Well, for offices and factories, Terry, it's once a year. An evacuation.
Yeah, I think blocks of flats probably are the same, Keith.
Yeah.
Well, okay, it's certainly questions worth asking. I've now got 6 questions to follow up next week. Thank you very much.
I think what we should do is discuss this in our next group meeting.
Yeah, but they're valid points. They're really good.
Come back to this kind of forum of what we can do, and I think we'll look at including a lot wider of the deaf and hearing impaired community, what we can do.
You can wrap things up, please. Can't sound like ever, and you will make me cry. I will send you my pictures of me crying.
Right.
No.
Thank you, Ashley.
Are there any other points of any other business?
No. Well done, Ashley.
Brilliant. Thank you all very much for attending. That was just over an hour.
Just one question to you, Ashley.
Yes.
Is your hair styled in that way, or is it the lack of a barber's appointment?
Natural.
Is that the trendy way of having hair? Because
He's
those
just
that haven't
jealous,
got hair-
Ashley. Ignore him. He's just jealous.
That's what it is.
I mean, it could be both. I don't know.
You look like you'd be in a boy band, but there we are.
Oh, my singing's atrocious. They wouldn't let me anywhere near, although all the others. So
Jason put his hand up a second ago.
Yeah.
Can I?
Jason, yeah.
Yeah. The going back a little bit on the fire alarm side, people that are hard of hearing or deaf, there's various other ways you can communicate with them and get their attention, other than throwing things at them. Now, what I've got in my home is a system whereby if my doorbell goes off, lights flash. You get a light flash. And I'd like to see that. Had that have been installed in Morrison's, I would have known that there was a fire alarm going off. We need to see more of that going on in shops as well. And it's because it's flashing that it really gets your attention. You know, I've got a friend that lives about 2 blocks flats away, and he'll shine a torch, one of these pointer lights,
in the bag, isn't it?
right through my window to get my attention. So the flashing of the light thing, any kind of light flashing, that's going to work for people that are hard of hearing.
Hey?
Yeah, it's a good visual effect.
No, I think you put it in the bag. So we don't use it in the car.
I think that's a bit of a side thing from Terry, but thank you very much, Jason. Obviously, we'll take it on board. I'm hearing impaired myself, so I will be taking it up with the group. I think we'll discuss that in our next meeting and report back. I think that'd be the best thing to do. And I think that's it. Thank you, everyone, for... No, does everyone else want to come in?
No.
No, we're waving. Okay, goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mwah. Love
Thank
you all.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.